the theme of this course is that we are exploring the 7 laws of venture creation. We've said that if you want to create a venture, that there are 7 steps you need to take. I call them the 7 laws. And why I call them the 7 laws is because you need to follow these steps. I have done my research. I have started many ventures. I have supervised many ventures. I have a lot of experience in especially the startup stage and development stage. And then, like I told you, and I've always told you, startup and development is different from the business. You see, when you want to start something up, there are unique challenges you will face. When you want to develop something, there are unique challenges you will face. When you are dealing with something that is already standard and established, there are a lot of things that you would not experience. Let me give you an example. If you want to start up a new channel, like this channel is a new channel. This system I'm using to teach is a new system. If you look at the history of the videos, you're going to see where we started from and where we are now. You see all the mistakes, all the bad videos. There are unique challenges. And then we'll get to a time where I will have mastered this YouTube and social media, and when I'm doing the videos, to have a simple template and it will just go straight forward. I will have less challenges. The challenges that we facing then will be different. Now, this is what we mean by venture creation and development. This is why we separate these two things. Creation and development face similar challenges. Developing something means you are changing it from how it was or how it normally works, and you're making it new. Creating too is the same thing. You're starting something new, something that has not existed before. Those challenges, I noticed, especially when you're creating a new business, they are very similar, and they follow these 7 steps. Anyhow you look at it, whatever English you use or has been used in any textbook or in any research, you find out that it falls down to these 7 laws. It boils down to these 7 laws, and that's where my 7 laws come from. And they are in a series, meaning you start with one, you go to the next, you go to the next, you go to the next, and by the time you get to the law number 7, then you come back again and do another cycle. So you are developing your business. So you keep on going around from the first law to the second, to the third, to the fourth, to the last. When you finish that, you come back again and you start. So it keeps on going on, and the more you do it, the more your venture develops, the more it increases, the more you get. And this is what I've come up with. So we are going to start with the first law. This video, we're going to talk about the first law. Do we have anyone who has joined us in this video? Okay, so if you have your questions in this live video, you can ask your questions. And even if you don't participate live, what you can do is you look at the description of the video. I put a link to the diagram I'm using to discuss, so you can look through this diagram and see what I'm talking about. And here now, we've said the first thing you need to do when you're going to set up an enterprise is to ensure that you are starting with what you have. You cannot start a business with what someone else has, someone else's resources. You can borrow, you can partner, but one way or the other, you need to start with your network. You need to start with your environment. You need to start with things that you have access to. And many people are trying to do business with, and they're trying to copy other people's ideas, but they don't ever think that you don't have what that person has. And the starting point for any enterprise should be your possessions. What do you have? You need to do an audit. Just like when you want to travel, you go to your cupboard and you look at all the things in your cupboard and you say, okay, what does this one? Have I worn this one? Am I wearing this one? Should I? You do an audit so that you know, okay, this is what I'm going to take to travel. You take the best clothes for the situation. If you're traveling to the desert, you want to wear boots. You want to take jeans. If you're going traveling for a conference, you want to wear your suit. You want to wear the different things that you want to wear suit and tie and cock shoe. So based on where you're going, you need to do an audit of what you have and pick the right elements. The same thing with the venture. When you want to start up a business, you need to look at what you have, do an audit, and decide These are the things that I'm going to use to develop this business. My contacts, my ideas, but not just any idea. This particular group of things are the things I'm going to use to start up. So let us explore how we're going to get this group of things. And we're going to do this audit for our own properties or possessions. How do we do the audit? That's what we're talking about here. So let's go through it. So when you look at the diagram, we'll look at the first thing. You see that it talks about your skills. What do you have? What kind of skills do you have? Are you a baker? Are you skilled at AI? Are you skilled at writing documents? Are you skilled with your memory? Do you have are you a tailor? Can you sew? What do you know that you can do? And you see, knowledge and skill are not the same thing. You can know something, but skill is when you can apply that thing very effectively. You can know how to cook, but you may not be able to cook well every time. It is from practice you develop the skill. So what skills do you have? I like to start with the skills first, and you see that's where the skill acquisition comes from. Skill acquisition. That is, but people think that is entrepreneurship. That is where you start from. You have a skill. That is one thing, and you see that you must not have all these unique assets. It all depends on what business you want to do. We're just going to explore these assets so that you're aware of what these assets are, and then you know what you are checking. Just like this asset is like your cupboard. Now, what happens is that all the assets are in your cupboard, but you're not carrying your cupboard to travel. You are carrying some clothes in your cupboard to travel. So in this case, you are looking at all your assets, and then you want to pick the ones that are relevant to that particular business that you're doing. Now that is the audit. You audit your assets and then pick the right ones. So in this case now, what we are looking at is your cupboard. You now, depending on the business you're doing, will now decide on what you are taking to travel for this business. So now let us go through these items in the cupboard. Number one is your skills, like I've mentioned. Number two is your experience. Experience is important. The experience that you have is something you can use. If you've worked in a bakery, you know how bakeries work. You don't need to go and ask anybody, how does a bakery work? You have seen it for yourself. That is an asset. If you want to start a bakery, you can use that experience as an audit, as a starting point to start your own bakery. This is why a lot of people go and learn work. That's what they call it. They're going to go and get experience. It's an asset. So you see, when you don't have a job and you're looking for a business and somebody says, come and work for me for free, you don't know that that person is paying you with experience. Experience costs money. There are people who they employ for jobs because of they have experience. So experience is money. Experience is money. People don't value it as an asset. It's money. If I've worked in Amazon, for example, it's an experience. I know how they do things in Amazon. So now if Konga wants to learn one or two things from me, they can always say, come, please come and tell us how this thing was done in Amazon, and then I'll give you check and you pay me money, and then I'll come and tell you. Experience is money. Experience is an asset. Your skills are an asset. So when people say I want to start up a business, they say I don't have capital. Capital is not the only thing you need to start up a business. I can use my experience and say I formed a company. My company is XYZ Consulting Services. In this case, let me say logistics consulting services. Do you want to do a business like Amazon? Come and consult me and I'll do the business. What capital do you need? You may not even need capital. Just go to your Facebook page, post it on your status, consult me for logistics advice. I have worked in Amazon. That is it. You don't need capital. People will call you, they pay you. From that money, you grow the business. So skill too is the same thing. I'm a very skilled person. I know how to design buildings for a cheap cost. You put it on your Facebook profile, and then people will call you. You don't need capital to start business. You need assets to start business. And capital is an asset. However, it is one asset. You have many things in your cupboard. You have many items in your cupboard. So we've talked about the skills. We've talked about experience. We're going to talk about knowledge. Knowledge is an asset. You could know something that someone else doesn't know. Then you sell it to the person. Like this course, for example, hopefully when I've done this for a long time, I would have covered everything. And then somebody who wants to start a business could say, Dr. Zeb, please, I want to start up a business. Come and brief me on what to do. I'll tell you my course is this amount of money, 100,000. You pay for it. I'll teach you how to start a business and succeed the first time without having to fail. That's knowledge. Starting up a business. So you see how all these things on their own can generate business. However, imagine you put all these things together: knowledge, you put the skills, you put the experience, then you can see how you're already becoming a powerhouse. Now let's look at tools and properties. All these things are in the diagram I sent to you. You can look at it and you can get some, you can get more insight on it. Tools and property. Now, the tools that you use, you could have things laying around in your house. Let's say you're living in your house and your father has a bakery and he's no longer in the baking business. Those things are still there. You can use those things to start up a small, you don't have to do a very big bakery. You can start selling tiny bread that you just do in small batches because you have the tools available. You could have some tools that are so expensive, people want to rent those tools. Like, say, for example, you have a camera and you don't know what you're doing with the camera. Is it tool? Somebody's into live blogging. You say, come, let me be doing, I'll be renting my camera out to you and you pay me. It's an asset. You can make money that way. Remember, still, not just capital. You could find so many tools that are laying around. Your phone could be a tool. Maybe you have an iPhone you bought for a different reason, and now somebody wants to go into blogging, for example. You say, my iPhone, come and rent it for your live videos, 3,000 per hour. Say it's iPhone Pro Max, you can say 10,000 per hour or 10,000 for a day. You go with the person and you're collecting 10,000 every day, and you be using your phone. It could not even be your phone. Maybe you know somebody who has the phone and you say, please borrow me this your phone, let me use it. Tools can generate money. So that's also another asset. Then we have the environment. This one we didn't talk about it in the class. The environment is an asset. Where you are is an asset. There are some people who have access to certain things based on their location. Now you're a student. There are some things you have access to for free. My classes, for example, if you were going to meet me and you're not a student and you wanted to hear this information, you would have to pay. But you're a student now, you're getting this for free. Your environment is putting you in a unique position. You're a student, you have access to other students you can easily sell to. When you graduate, it will be difficult. You say you want to go and meet the same students you have on the road and you want to sell them things. They will ask, who are you? Now you're on campus, it's easy for you to interact. So your environment is very important. Where you are is very important. It's an asset. You can take advantage of it to your own benefit. I'll give you another example of how where you are is an asset. You may be in a church, for example, and then you're also in the university. And there's something that they do in your church that your university will benefit. You are in the church environment. The university doesn't have access to that environment. You can go to your church and say, come and supply my school this particular thing, because they don't have it in their own environment. You have taken advantage of the environment to do what you have to do. Farmers do this all the time. They can grow things in the north that we can't grow in the south, and then they are growing those things and sending it to us in the south. You now could also say, okay, banana or so and so grows in so and so place, let me go and be importing it. There are 1 million ways you can take advantage of your environment. Your environment is an asset. Some of you have family lands and space. You may not even go into farming. You can say, please, there's space here. Anybody who wants to farm, we will rent out this land for farming. We'll rent it out for XYZ. If you have a church, we'll rent. Environment is an asset. So we'll talk about the last one, which is relationships and social networks. Some of you have a lot of friends. You have a lot of people who are on your profile, your Facebook, some people just like you. Relationships, they're people you know. These people are assets. I may need access to somebody that you know. I may need access to somebody you know. And I'm willing to pay you if you tell me you know somebody who's going to buy my course, for example. I will tell you, please, can we do business? Relationships, very valuable. We call it connections here in Nigeria, but relationships, your network is important. Do not sell your soul. Do not destroy your character because of a small thing. Build and maintain relationships. You don't know where you use them. You don't know how you use them. You don't know what will come out of it, because relationships are an asset. You see, there's a reason why I didn't talk about capital, because capital has been abused. It's an asset still, but I'm not going to talk about it. Capital is capital. If you want to use capital, use capital. But why I've not mentioned it and I didn't talk about it is because it's the least important asset. When you have excess capital, it affects your thinking. You don't think well. A lot of people who have a lot of capital, They just go and be spending money. Well, I need this for my business. It makes them not to think. So I don't like that asset. I don't like it. That is because it's of what it does. So even if you give me money now, I will keep that money and I will be very careful spending it, because I know that capital makes you not to think hard. When you don't have money, you will think of so many solutions. When you have money, you just be, you're looking for the easy way out. Oh, can you do this thing? Can you take this money and do it? When if you really sat down to think about it, you would have found out that there was a cheaper way of doing it, but because the money is there, you pay. That is a normal human nature. So capital is an asset that you need to be very, very careful about. When you have capital, before you spend any money, you need to think, well, is there a better way of doing this thing that doesn't involve spending money? So that is what I have to say about capital assets. Do not abuse it. Be very careful, because it has a spirit. You know what I'm talking about. When you get money, the thing is to possess somebody, your head will just start shaking you, everything you want to spend. Be very careful of capital. That is a dangerous asset. So it is the last thing I'm talking about, and it's the worst thing, and it's the best thing at the same time. It's like fire. It can burn you. It can also cook food. Be very careful. See, when you are cooking, stay far from the fire. Watch it very well. You don't take it for granted. Capital, be very careful with capital as an asset. Use it wisely. Don't let it push you into action when you're not supposed to go into action. So we're going to stop here now, and then this is the first law, the first rule of venture creation and development. So it's either if you're creating a business or you're developing a business, you must do this audit. We call it the property audit, possession audit, whichever one you want to call it. You must do this audit. Audit your assets, audit your audit the things you have, so that you know where you are starting from to launch or to develop your business concept. So if you have any questions, please put it in the comments, and then we are going to look at the second level, second step, second law in the next video. So stay tuned.